Trend number 6, the reviewer is getting reviewed. So far, we've been talking a lot about how consumers review businesses and professionals and the impact of those reviews. Let's turn the tables a bit and talk about a trend that is happening where businesses are reviewing their customers. I want to start by telling you about an episode of Black Mirror. It's a British science fiction series on Netflix. Have you seen it? For those of you who haven't, each story takes place in an imagined near future and is about how technology could impact our lives. The episode that I want to tell you about is called Nosedive. Think Twilight Zone meets Facebook. In it, everyone shares their activity on social media, just as many of us do today. But in this world, people rate each other on every single interaction on a scale from 1 to 5 stars. Every individual has their own rating, just like a restaurant on Yelp, and everyone can see each other's ratings. And these ratings, they are incredibly important as they impact each person's socioeconomic status. Our main character, her name is Lacey, who is played by Bryce Dallas Howard. You probably know her from the Jurassic World movies. Starts out the story with a 4.2 rating. Now, that doesn't sound too bad, and it's not. Think upper middle class. But she's trying to get into a luxury apartment, and she needs a 4.5 rating to qualify for the discount. She's super nice to everyone she meets and hands out good ratings like candy, but she can't seem to get her own rating up. She even hires a reputation management consultant who suggests that she needs to get high ratings from highly rated people in order to impact her rating. In her attempt to get her ratings up, she plans to attend a wedding with a lot of 4.9s who she thinks she can impress. On her way to the wedding, she actually misses a ride with a driver and then later spills some coffee on a highly rated influencer. When they both give her negative ratings, she gets bumped down below 4.2. Now, this causes her to lose her seat on her flight to the wedding because she needed the 4.2 rating to qualify for her airline ticket. When she goes to rent a car, her low rating means she gets the worst car on the lot. It runs out of power and she ends up having to hitchhike. Enter Susan, played by Cherry Jones, a truck driver with a 2.0 rating. She tells a story of her late husband who was passed over for vital cancer treatment for another person who had a higher rating. Okay, I'll stop there because I know you're intrigued now and I don't want to spoil the ending. Now, this is, of course, an imagined example and surely nothing like anything we will ever experience, right? Or could it possibly come to pass? Could we find ourselves in a world where people start rating people? Could that rating impact the apartment we qualify for, the car we can rent, or the flight we can take? Surely not. Or maybe. I'd like to talk to those of you who have ever used the rideshare service Uber. Take your phone out for a minute and open your Uber app. Make sure you're logged in. Then click the little menu in the top left corner of the screen. Do you see that? There under your name, that is your rating on a scale of 1 to 5 stars. Now, for some of you, this is the first time hearing that your Uber drivers have been rating you. How does that make you feel? Are you surprised by your rating? Are you wondering why you don't have a perfect 5 stars? I'm sure you've always been polite to your drivers. Now you're wondering which one gave you less than 5 stars and how you might have offended them. Or maybe you had an incident with a driver and you're pretty sure you know which one gave you the negative rating. That probably doesn't make you feel any better, does it? That was the one time and your actions were totally justified, right? Why should that one driver have the power to impact your overall rating? Let me tell you my Uber story. To start, my driver pulled up in the wrong location. The airport had a very specific Uber pickup lane where I was waiting patiently, but she didn't use it, so I had to walk across traffic to get to her. But that's only the beginning. She popped the hatch on her Jeep Cherokee, and I threw my bag in the back. I then climbed into the back seat. I normally like to sit in the front and chat, but she had a bunch of stuff in the passenger seat. They do that when they don't want you to sit up front with them. Anyway, I climbed in the back and put my backpack in the seat next to me. She looked over her shoulder and said, "Well, I have OCD, and I'd really like you to keep your bag in the back." That's when I noticed that she had seat covers and plastic covering most of the car. So I said, "If it's all the same to you, this backpack has my life in it, so I'm just going to hang on to it." I figured that would be the end of the story, but she retorted with, "Well, I just think you should respect that I have OCD and put it in the back." I was shocked. I literally wanted to say, "Listen, lady, if your OCD is that bad, maybe you shouldn't be a freaking Uber driver," right? But I had recently been reading self-help books on being more patient, so I said, "Tell you what, I'll keep my backpack in my lap, okay?" And she replied, "Well, I just think that if your backpack has been on the ground at the airport, then I'd really like you to put it in the back." And I said, "Look, it's in my lap. It's not touching your seat." I guess she gave up because she changed the subject and started talking about something else. After listening to her stories for more than 20 minutes and watching car after car pass her in the right lane because she was driving the speed limit in the passing lane, pet peeve, I finally arrived at my destination. Before I got out, she said, "Mr. David, thank you. I know we butted heads when you first got in, but I enjoyed talking to you." I was super tempted to tell her how I really felt about our ride, but decided that there wasn't much point. When it came time for me to rate her, I was super tempted to give her a low rating and even report her to Uber. But I decided that she had gotten me to my location safely, and that was good enough. So rather than giving her a bad rating, I just didn't rate her. Here's the rub. I checked my Uber rating later in the day, and it had gone from a 4.96 to a 4.8 something. I couldn't believe it. She had to have given me a terrible rating for my score to drop that much after one ride. I was furious, seriously furious. And I'm not the only person who gets mad about an unfair rating. Check out what these Uber passengers had to say. "I had a driver give me a low score. He grumbled that he wasn't making money on short rides. He also had difficulty picking us up because there was an accident that caused him to have to detour, which I'm sure he figured was totally my fault." Well, that's not fair, is it? Here's one that speaks to just how emotional people get about something so arbitrary. "I was polite, thanked the driver after the ride, and even tipped him $5 in the app. The next day, my rating went from 4.8 to 4.69. F this. From now on, I'm just going to rate every driver 1 and I won't be tipping. What is even the point?" So my question to you guys is this. Did we overreact? Does it even matter that these drivers lowered our rating with unfair reviews? Are there consequences for low ratings? As a matter of fact, yes. If a driver's rating falls below 4.6, they can be placed on probation or even lose their ability to drive for Uber, according to some leaked documents from 2015. As for passengers, Uber states that anyone with a below average rating risks deactivation from the app. But they don't state what below average rating means exactly. How does that make you feel? Are you having a tables are turned kind of moment where you feel a shift in power from the consumer to the business? Is this a little more like the episode of Nosedive than we'd like to admit? Who's to say that Uber might start offering different tiers of service, and qualifying for those different tiers might be based on your rating? Creepy, right? By the way, customer rating isn't relegated to Uber, as I'm sure you can guess. Two-way reviews have been part of Airbnb since its inception. Hotels often make notes about their customers in their database so that they are aware that they may like their rooms cleaned earlier in the day or that they like foam pillows, but also if they have had a complaint lodged against them by a neighboring room. Heck, I'm going to go full-on confession right now and tell you that when I delivered pizza in the late 80s, I used to make notes on customer accounts as to whether they tipped well or not. So how do these stories make you feel? Are you angry? Do you feel that your privacy has been violated? Is your sense of justice screaming that the system is unfair? Heck, maybe it's a good thing. Maybe if we think we're constantly being graded, we'll be on our best behavior. Maybe this trend will make the world a better place. Or maybe we're in for a world that looks a lot like the episode of Black Mirror after all. Only time will tell.